it's Linda Clayton, and I am delighted to introduce my guest, Shannah Compton Game. She is CFP and MBA. She is the host of Millennial Money podcast, so you're probably already following her. And she's a CFP board ambassador. Shannah, thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Shannah is really unique because she wears so many hats. You are co-owner of an insurance agency. You have your own podcast that you do. You have opened not just one, but 2 RIAs. And so we'd like to learn more about your experiences. And the first thing I think we should start is at the beginning. So you were working in the insurance field and you decided that you wanted to get your CFP. And what made you decide to do an RIA? How did you choose that direction for your practice?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. So when I was deciding on the RIA, there were a couple of models to choose from, starting my own financial planning practice. And everyone in the beginning said, oh, an RIA is so difficult, to get going. And there weren't a lot of the RIA kind of service providers that there are now when I started the RIA. And that was even just, we're talking 7-8 years ago. It wasn't that long ago. But, for me, because I'd been a partner with my father in an insurance agency and we had been, brokerage firms, so we could use any carrier, I liked the ability to be on my own and make up my own firm the way I wanted it to be. And so, an RIA really was the right choice to go about doing that.
Yeah, you did such a fabulous job of branding. Tell me how you branded, and we'll start with your first RIA. How did you come up with the concept? How did you brand it? What did you do?
Yeah, I always knew that I wanted to work with younger people because I thought, younger people really don't have an outlet for planning their, the sort of the model in the industry is older male. And so I wanted to do something a little bit differently. So it started from that concept, and I've been an entrepreneur my whole career. And so I really have a heart for entrepreneurs. So I knew that was going to be my niche, working with younger professionals, in particular entrepreneurs and business owners. And so, it just started the process of coming up with names, and for me, that's something I love. I love marketing. Somebody told me very early on that the best piece of advice if you're going to be a CFP or financial planning is that it really is about 80 to 90% marketing, right? Do you have a niche? Can you get clients? If you can't get a client in the door, it doesn't matter what you know. You could know all of the tools in the tool chest, but if you can't get clients in the door, you don't have a business model. You're not making money. So, to really spend some time focusing on branding and coming up with what is your own unique concept, what is your firm going to be about, who are you going to service, and down to everything about what is your name, what does your logo look like, what does your website look like. All of those details have to echo that ideal client that you want to get in the door before you even get that client in the door. You have to start there.
Well, you started your first RIA with a business partner.
Yes.
And did you both share the same vision, or was there a lot of discussion as to how this was going to go?
We shared the same vision. I was primarily the one with the background in the financial service industry, so I was really the one that was going to be kind of leading the charge of that RIA. And, we shared the same vision of who we were going to work with, and we both loved kind of the name of the firm, but it just didn't end up working out. And so then I ended up not too long after that starting a new RIA kind of all over again.
So tell me about the process of first of all, this one you set up, what you had to go through, and then disbanding it. Mm-hmm. And what you had to go through, and then evolving to the next one. So I guess it's a 3-part question. Let's start.
I'll try to remember
part number one. Let's start about
um,
what you had to do to get this set up? Who
Yes.
helped you as far as all of the regulatory things
Right.
and letting you know what to do?
Yeah, so, I have talked to some people who think they can just do it all themselves. And you can do it all yourself. However, it makes your life so much easier if you hire a compliance firm, an RIA compliance firm that knows what they're doing. And, when I started, like I said, there wasn't a lot of choices. So I ended up asking friends who had started their own IRA, who did they use? And there were a bunch of different companies that they talked about. Some were a lot more expensive. And I ended up finding a firm called CS2 on the East Coast. And they were just lovely. It was a husband and wife couple. They had been setting up RIAs for years and years and years. They knew the complications dealing with a state like California. Because in California, it can take a lot of time to get things processed. And if you don't process your paperwork at certain times of the year, you could be waiting a long time. And they had actually a lot of people that had come to them from other RIA compliance firms frustrated because they weren't getting their paperwork through. And so there was just an ease about them that I really, really loved. And, so I decided to use them to start the RIA. And, they were kind of mid-price range. I think they were around $2,000 in fees to get started. And they basically baby-stepped me through the entire process. And that is why, having a firm, a compliance firm like that from the very beginning is such an important piece of the puzzle, because they really can help direct you as to the steps you need to take. So you aren't doing extra steps, but that you're doing it in the most efficient way. And so, the first step was really, do I want to set up a corporation? And I had decided that the second time around, I was going to just go, the RIA was just going to be my name. And I was just going to be a sole proprietor. That was the easy thing for me, and I liked it. And so, I went that direction. Luckily, the time between setting up the first RIA and the second it was such a short period of time that they were able to just easily amend the RIA. So I was able to take kind of all the same paperwork. And, when I talk about this firm CS2, like how amazing they are, they didn't charge me any fees to do the amending, to change the paperwork. And, it was then that I really saw, like, okay, having quality people behind you. I'm sure some of the bigger RIA compliance firms are fantastic. But Paul and Mary at CS2, they just, they have a heart for helping people, and that really showed through. So, it was first deciding whether you're going to set up a company or not. And, to do that, you can do that easily through places like LegalZoom or My Corporation. There are tons of places. And that's somewhere between, $100 to $200, depending on filing fees and the structure of your company and, all that good stuff. And then from there, it really is the RIA compliance firm that is creating all the documents that need to be created to submit to the state to actually form the RIA. And so they have, of course, a lot of templates. And, they talk to you. You fill out questionnaires about, well, what do you practice wants to look like? What are the clients you're going to serve? Are you going to go to clients' offices? Is yours going to be a virtual practice? What are your planning model going to look like? Are you going to do assets under management? Are you not? So you go through a long kind of questionnaire of all of these different questions, and then they take all that information and put it into their templates, and then that spits out the documents that you need to submit to the state. So they actually do all the submitting to the state. They do all the follow-up with the state. You're not in that at all, except that it's your firm that you're setting up. So they make it really, really easy for you to do what you do best and let them do what they do best.
So what kind of budget did you start with? And were you surprised at what it cost you? Or did you find that you had to supplement that as time went on? Or?
Yeah, I have heard, before I started my RIA, I had heard a lot of people say, oh, you need, a lot of money to start your RIA. And I really think that you can start your RIA and be up and running in, $5,000 or less. If you want to get a lot of the software and a lot of the sort of extra add-ons, that you can as a planner, you might be somewhere between $5,000 to $10,000, but I definitely think it's doable for well under $10,000. But you do need a pad. You do need some money. There is some startup costs. A lot of those are just one-time costs, but then you have, depending on different software and different, protection things that you have in place, social media archiving, all of these different things, those can be monthly fees or annual fees. And then you have E&O that you have to purchase if you don't have that already. So, it can start to add up, but, the thing that I really loved about CS2, the compliance firm I chose, was that they were really cost conscious. And so they were really careful about helping you figure out, okay, I've got this budget, how can I build, a practice that I can launch with this budget? And I think that's really great because they do this all the time. They do this for planners all around the United States. They know all the technology, they know all the software systems. They had actually a direct connection to the E&O company that I chose. And so I was able to actually get a discount through them because they had a personal relationship. So a lot of those things go a long way to help you save money.
Now, you don't manage assets, so talk about that. How does that work? How did you identify the RIA to work with, and how do you do that with your clients?
Yeah, so assets under management really hadn't been my background, and I thought, to do that, it needs to be something that you really focus on, and that wasn't the brand identity of the firm I was starting. So fortunate enough, I was able to join forces in I guess we'd call it a loose partnership, with someone who does do assets under management, and because they have an RIA and I had an RIA, we were able to come up with an agreement where we would share fees for any clients that were referred. Of course, those clients, there has to be full disclosure. It's actually in my ADV under the assets under management section, that I do not manage assets under management, but I do work with another partner. And so, it's just full disclosure, but the beauty of that, I think the lesson in that is when you get your CFP, a lot of times you think you have to be everything to everyone. And you might just have one really good specialty that you want to specialize in, and that's great. You can form a partnership, a relationship with other CFPs where they can handle other aspects of business and let you just do what you do really well.
Now, what kind of things do you have to do annually? You said you've had this now for, 6 or 7 years. What kind of things do you have to do on an annual basis to maintain the RA?
Yeah, those annual things always sneak up on you. In fact, I was just thinking the other day, oh, it's almost October. So at the end of the year, December, you have to basically fund your state account. It costs about $100, but basically you're kind of recertifying your RA. And then at the beginning of the year, you will go through and if there's any changes to your ADV, which is basically your Bible for being an RIA, if there's any changes to outside business activity, if you've changed your business model at all, even if you've made no changes, you have to resubmit a new ADV, a new form. And that's something the compliance firm helps you do all of those. They're really great about sending out constant reminders of, okay, this is due now, this is going to be due in, 24 hours, just to make sure that you don't miss those deadlines so that you don't have late fees or you don't jeopardize your RIA. But other than those kinds of things, if you're audited during a year, then of course, they help you prepare for an audit. I have actually not been audited, but I have a lot of friends who have, and have told me it's not the end of the world. So, but those are the only kind of requirements by state that you actually do.
Now, they keep copies of your archived documents and the things that you have, so is that something that they keep on file so they can answer these for you? Is that helps you through the process?
Yeah, and they've actually changed their business model a little bit. They're now going with the way the industry is going, which is a month-by-month kind of retainer structure. And so with that month-to-month payment structure, what that buys you is a certain amount of hours of their time. And so with those hours of that time, they can either help you resubmit or make the changes on your ADV, or you don't have to, use them. You can do it yourself. So they've created webinars and all sorts of documents to help guide you through the process if you want to do it yourself. Last year I thought, okay, I'm gonna try to do this myself, and it was actually very, very easy, just following their webinar literally step by step by step, because I didn't have really any changes, so it was just, kind of an easy recertification. But they're with you as much as you need them. So if you need that hand-holding, especially in the first few years of your RIA, I highly suggest that you lean on them because they're the experts. They can answer any question you have about compliance. That's their job. And then maybe as you get a few years down the line, maybe you can start doing, a few things yourself, or if you have an assistant or something like that, they can, help you out on those things.
Now, you're so proficient in social media. How have you integrated that into your practice, and do you think it's benefited you as far as clients, as far as your niche? Let's talk about that.
Yeah, it's hard to avoid social media these days, and especially having, a planning firm. If you're targeting, I think, anyone under 60, you have to be really proficient with social media. It doesn't mean you have to be on it all the time, but I think you could kind of, work it to your advantage. I know some planners also write a lot of articles on the side for different publications, and so they use Twitter a lot to, push those articles out so that hopefully future clients are seeing their name out in the media as an expert. And that's really, I think, how you use social media in the right way. As a CFP, you really just want to brand yourself as an expert. You're an expert in whatever your niche is or whatever your particular, sector that you do really well. That's just what you want to brand yourself as. And so on the compliance side of that, it does create a little bit of a headache. So, you have to have all of that archived. And there's a lot of great services. There's one called Arcovi, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And you pay a monthly fee, and they just archive all of the social media that's going out for you, so that if you're audited, you can literally just pull up those records and it shows all of your social media. So, there's services now for everything to make everything easier, because the industry is definitely realizing that social media is not going away, and that it's a really vital piece of a financial planner's practice.
Now, as a sole practitioner, how do you allow me time? How do you get vacations? How do you turn the practice off on the weekends or evenings? What do you do so that, since you're you don't have somebody to delegate to, how do you manage that?
That's a really good question. I'm not sure I'm ever turned off. My husband's argument is always, you got to switch off your brain. So I don't think I'm ever off. Being a sole proprietor with a lot of things going on, I always have a lot of, balls in the air that I'm juggling. But I think if you have your own RIA, you can structure your work hours how you would like to. Everyone thinks that it's always about, I've got to make the most money, I've got to have the most clients. And for some of us, we don't want that. So you can create your practice however you want. If you want to have 2 clients a month, you can. It's really about finding out how much money do you want to make each year. Backing into, okay, what do I need to actually charge my clients? And then how does that equate to however many clients I have each month? So I know, CFPs that have an RIA that only want, 2, 3, 4 clients a month. If even that, they may take 1 new client a month. And so that's just how they create their practice. And that's the beauty of having your own RIA, is you can make those rules. You can make that decision and shape your practice however you want.
Shannah, this has been such great information. In closing, I'd love for you to give us your best tip if you were starting a new RIA right now. What would you advise the students to do?
I would really say, one, don't be fearful of starting an RIA. If you have a great compliance firm like CS2, they really are there to handhold you. That makes your life so much easier. But the second thing, and I think maybe this is most important, and it's so overlooked, is really to spend a lot of time thinking about what does your practice look like? Who are your ideal clients? Again, that of how much money do you want to make? And then how are you going to market yourself? Because again, if you can't market yourself and you can't get clients in the door, you aren't making money. And at the end of the day, that's what it's about. You're in a business. You're a financial planner for business to make money. And so, really spending a lot of time thinking about those things goes a long way in making your practice and your RIA successful.
Thank you very much. It's been such great information. I really appreciate you being here. This was Shannah Compton Game, and I appreciate your time today.
Absolutely.
Thank you.